certainly raised some serious questions as to the discrepancies that have occurred in this agency. And I quite frankly do not feel comfortable voting for any monies that will go towards the agency until they show a more positive response to some of the questions that are being asked. Now, I know we don't have enough auditors maybe, but I thought, or I read in the newspapers, or I read somewhere, or we in one of our memos here, that our district attorney investigated this agency and didn't find anything wrong. Now, maybe he wasn't looking in the right direction, but I think I know for me, and as I said, I hate to hold back money on anybody because I know they do a great job as far as the housing and stuff like that goes, but you know, we have to call somebody else in to take a look at this. I mean, I don't have the expertise to go on and say what's legal and what's not legal, but obviously Mr. Schoenberger's report is quite obvious what has happened here. It's fraudulent, and you know, somebody should be paying the price. So whether the New York State Attorney General should be brought in, or somebody that will, an independent auditor, or whatever you want to call him, an investigation, I think it has to be taken care of. But I don't feel comfortable voting an allocation of monies, of taxpayers' money. It's not my money, it's taxpayers' money. And we hear from them all the time on how we have to be careful and do this and do that. But an agency that has a reputation of, if it's just all this is, and I have no reason not to believe Mr. Schoenberger in his words, and I mean, I don't know how we can sit here and vote for this agency to give them the money, because how can you say that they're not going to do the same thing in 210? I realize what you're saying, Mr. Schoenberger, that 210 money is not being allocated yet, and maybe I can justify giving them something for 209, but certainly before we give them any 210 money, there's got to be a better understanding of what transpired here. If what you say is true, it's and I have no reason not to believe you. You're an attorney. You wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. So I think we have some serious problems in this particular organization, and that's only my comments, and I'm not sure I can vote on this.
Thank you. Legislator Coker.
Thank you. When Hogar came to Budget and Finance the other evening, and it was a very extensive report that they gave, and we had an opportunity to ask a lot of questions of them. One of the things that I think was apparent to a lot of us was that, well, the board of directors, I mean, they're volunteers, and that they seem to come and take this very seriously at this point, and made it clear that as this money was going to be released to them, that there was going to be a much different level of oversight of the money, and that in fact it had been basically spent on programs that were legitimate. On the other hand, it was very clear to me that things had just gotten very messy at Hogar. Whether there's criminality or not, the district attorney has ruled that there has not been, but it's very messy. I am going to vote in favor of this. I appreciate that housing is a critical issue in the county. I think that there is a level, like I said, of oversight from the board of directors that's different now, going through the process of answering the questions from our council, from the legislature, pointed them in the direction that they need to be pointed in to do this. I know I was very concerned about, and I started wondering, when did the board of directors realize, and the director Rivera, understand that there was a problem with their funding from the county, that we were going to be holding this up, and I believe it was back in February. So the fact that they continued to spend money, continued with their programs without working with us to solve these problems, I think, again, we're talking about something that was just very messy. So I appreciate that the staff cuts that Chairwoman Cornell described in our oversight department played a role also, that every time we cut staff in the budget from these kind of departments, I think one of the things we're seeing is a result of that. So as we go into the budget season again next fall, we have to look at some of these issues also. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Legislator Jordan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. as I listen to some of my colleagues, there's a statement that I just feel must be made, because there's a mischaracterization here, as far as I'm concerned, on some of the programs, truly, truly fine programs that's being provided through HOGAR. And I don't think that we need to give that negative impression about that part of the program as is presently being done. Legislators have said that HOGAR, or probably many agencies, contract agencies, do not serve their communities, or they would say that their constituents don't utilize different contract agencies. Well, that may very well be, provided that, you know, that community is well enough that they don't need these contract agencies that will not require services, whether it's from the county, from the town, or the village, or the agencies. That's wonderful, and it would be so great if all people in the world lived in those communities where they needed no services whatsoever. That would be absolutely marvelous, and I'm sure that the economy would be providing them with the same resources that would allow that to go forward. However, there are some communities that are in very much need of the services being provided by many of these very, very fine contract agencies. And as all of you know, that if these services was going to be provided by the county or the town or the villages, the amount of expense that it would go and the amount of taxes that would be increased to try to provide those same services would be much greater than it would be by the services provided for these contract agencies. I know that there are some allegations out there. I'm fully aware of them. I'm fully aware of what's being recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee, of which obviously I'm a member, and I concur with those stipulations as they have been put forth. I'm fully aware that they need to come back and have the answer additional questions that was not answered to this point. I concur with that also. But I do think that the appropriating of this money for those two programs that are listed, documented here in these resolutions, talking in terms of where the money would go to aid in those programs, I think is quite appropriate, and it doesn't cause for the mischaracterization of those same two programs. Many of us received an invitation to a recent graduation from that first-time home buyers program that was held at the extension, RCC extension in Spring Valley, where there was something like 24, 25 people who had gone through this program. It wasn't a matter that they just gave it to these 20, whatever number of people there. They had to go through this whole process. So it does provide some kind of kind of assistance, and in a very positive way. And I think that we ought to continue to support the agency for the good that they do, and not destroy the entire agency because of these allegations that are being brought brought upon by some of the activities done by the director, as well as by I guess the approval of the board from HOGAR. So I want to make sure that we give the positive aspect of those programs that have been effective, as well as we can talk about how we can address those issues that we're currently facing with HOGAR at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Hood.
Thank you, Chairwoman Cornell. It's been a tough issue for me. I've sort of been, put in the middle of it, because it is an agency that services my district greatly. It is someone who is run by, it's run by somebody who ran against me in a campaign, so it could look like it's a personal vendetta. But I did want to answer that tonight, because I'm the one putting forward this resolution for money to be released when there's sentiment here to not release any money. And while I do in some way agree with Legislator Myers and Legislator Mulroney, I don't want to see this organization fail because of what I see as maybe failings of the executive director. So I'm hoping that everybody will vote yes tonight to release this amount of money, and it's actually going to be